I'm Sarah DiCarlo. Why don't you fellows sit down? And my esteemed panel, my guys, today. So but I wanted to start out by talking a little bit. I never want to miss an opportunity to talk about the Institute for Innovation and what we have going on. So we were very excited to kick off 2015 with Igniting Innovation, and that's what we're going to be talking about, some of the innovations today. And we had 700 registrants for that event. For a first-year effort, come on. Yeah, this is good. So how many of you were there? Okay, this is good. Good. And there was a lot of energy there. We had 83 programs that were nominated by government and industry. They could be products, so, hardware things. They could be processes. They could be software development. We really left it wide open, and it could be anything that benefited government. So it could be, we even had some that were benefit the city of New York, and we had some of our top 30. We went from 83 to 30 through our judges. We even had people come from out of state. One fellow came from California on a red eye, God love him. Another group came up from Florida. So we really want this to be a national competition, and hope that as you think about it for this next year, 2015, and we are going to do it again, and we are going to do it in February again. We don't have a date. It will be at the Ronald Reagan Center. I'm working with them to nail down the exact date for it, because literally, like the day before we were doing the event, people were like, so what about next year? And even when we were there, there were a lot of people saying, well, you're going to do it again, you're going to do it again, because it was very energizing. I mean, the room was just abuzz with energy that day. It was really, really great. And it was really due to the quality of the innovations that were submitted to us. We had voting that went on during the like 11 to 2 o'clock time frame that we had open for the 30 present booths, to visit the booths. And so you could vote up to 8 of your favorite. We asked each of them every single one of the 30 came prepared to do a 5-minute presentation. And so they got up with really no notice, and other than that they needed to be prepared, and gave their pitch, and then the audience voted again for their top, and the winner of that was the How's My Waterway application, and Douglas Norton is here to represent that. In addition, we had awards that were given by our Innovator Circle members. Innovator Circle are our sponsors and advisors for the Institute for Innovation. They went around as judges and talked with each of the different representatives from the booths, and we gave out awards for the Incubator Award. And John DeSoto is here representing Patient Buddy, which was our incubator. We have High Risk, High Reward, and Paul Good is here representing the CBP IRIS project. We had Greatest Citizen Impact. They were not able to come today, but that was a wireless emergency alert system that uses wireless messages instead of tying up the wireless network. It's called iPause. Short emergency messages using a cell broadcast technology. So that was very interesting, and it's a way to communicate at a time of emergency. And that was our Greatest Citizen Impact Award. Our most disruptive technology was very interesting, and we were very glad. We had several projects that were out of the defense world, and this one was from the MITRE Corporation, and it was on full motion video optical navigation targeting, and it has to do with targeting from drones. And they have developed a whole new way of doing it that takes out a time-consuming process of matching what's on the ground with what's going on from their GPS standpoint up in the air. So it was actually very fascinating, and they had a demonstration for us that was very interesting. So they were the most disruptive technology. And then last but not least, we have our 3 R's Award. And Dennis Alvord is here to represent the 3 R's, which is reuse, reduce, and recycle. So that was a project that had already been out but had taken a leap forward in terms of its innovation. And so we gave them that award, and we were very happy about that. So we had some overlap between what ended up being the top 8 and what ended up being our what we called our Dynamite Awards, because we were in this igniting theme. So I want to tell you, before I turn it over to them to do their presentations, we've got a couple of things that are going on through the Institute. We have this presentation today. We are inviting several of those who were in the top 30. So not just these folks will be coming to Management of Change, but we've opened it up to all the top 30, and we will have representatives from those different, now not all 30 are coming, trust me, they can't all come, but we are going to have a very good cross selection of projects that will be coming to talk about innovation at Management of Change as one of the workshops on Monday afternoon. And then on June the 12th, we have another program that is really going to be new for the Institute for Innovation. We're bringing in an author who wrote the book Making Innovation Work. And he's got some principles that are used by the London School of Economics and many others. It's in its 12th edition. And so very sound in terms of the principles that will be conveyed then. We're going to start at 1 o'clock. He's going to speak for about an hour. And then we're going to go into workshop mode and talk about making those principles apply and work in terms of actionable recommendations in government. So it's going to be a real interesting working session. We're going to limit the number of people to come to about 120 because we really want to have a lot of roundtable conversation, and then there'll be a reporting out. Federal Computer Week is covering it with us, and so we expect that there will be, really some nice coverage of that event from their standpoint. They're going to, write some special articles for us and get things going on making sure people know about it as we advertise it, and then reporting out on the results. So we've got, and then we'll have Igniting Innovation again, and there's discussion about another paper coming up, so they're keeping me as a part-time person very busy. But I'm enjoying it. So with that, in terms of what's going on with the Institute for Innovation, by the way, we always look for new members to join the Institute for Innovation. Carol Miller is our liaison to help us from the Board of Directors, the Executive Committee, to help us with that. But if you think your company might be interested, we would be very interested in talking with you. It's the Innovator Circle members really help shape the direction that we take the Institute over the course of the year, and they're very engaged. We're very happy. There's a very engaged group in helping us move the Institute forward. So with that, let me just do a quick introduction of each. I made sure I got their job titles right. So Doug Norton is representing How's My Waterway, and he's the Senior Environmental Scientist for the Office of Water. I told him before this that I'm going on a vacation to Montana this summer, and I looked, it's going to Flathead Lake, if anybody knows that, in Montana outside of Glacier National Park. So my sister, who's been there before, told me that they drink the water right out of the lake. Well, I went to the water, and I'm not sure that that's something that I would recommend after reading what's written up in How's My Waterway. So I'm going to send a note to my hostess and make sure I know where the water is coming from in the house, in the cabin that we're staying in that time. It's amazing. Sometimes you don't really want to know all these things, All right. So then John DeSoto is representing his company is the Creative Information Technology Incorporated, and he's going to be talking about Patient Buddy. He's the Vice President for Health and Life Science and Information Technology. Next to him is Paul Good, who, if you were at the Igniting Innovation session, you'll know that Paul packs. So be nice. Be nice.
Follow me.
Yep. And he is the Assistant Chief of Border Protection, and is here representing the movement towards an IRIS project that they have been implementing at CBP. Dennis Albert is the executive director of the Small Business Administration's Business USA project. So you should have been happy to hear all the things that we're doing to promote the small business community here today. And yes, so we're very happy about that, and I welcome all of you. So let me turn the meeting over to Dennis. They're going to each do a brief I'm going to let them do a presentation about their projects, each of them. So let's go through all of those, and then let's do questions after. There'll be time. Okay? If I stop talking. Thanks. Okay. You're actually not first. You're last. Dennis, I'm sorry. Did I say I'm sorry. It's my fault. Douglas.
Okay. Where's the clicker?
We're all family here.
They're all family here. Yes. Thank you. I'm sorry, Dennis. Yep.
Very good. Okay. Now, I need some technical assistance here on which advances forward and back. Right side. There we go. Okay. Well, thank you, Sarah, and thank you once again for the great honor of being selected in the Igniting Innovations Conference, which I enjoyed tremendously. The only complaint I had was that I felt kind of like a kid in a candy store, but his mom was there with a plate full of food and saying, "You got to finish your plate full before you can go see anything." And then all of a sudden, everybody was off and it was over, and I never got the chance to see all 30 of all the places there. So I got to plan my time better next time. It was just, as she says, it was such a stimulating occasion. All these just amazing ideas on display in one place, and I still want to get back there and see all of them, so I hope there's a way. Great, I can do that. Anyway, I guess just one short introductory thought before I tell you a little bit about How's My Waterway. Innovation, it seems to me in its purest form, is something that gives you a chance to talk about the way something used to be and the way it is now, and you can really see the difference. So that's kind of the way I'm going to frame my remarks about what we've done with How's My Waterway. I work in the EPA Office of Water, and for decades we've had surface water quality information that's been sent in by states. And EPA kind of gathers all this state monitoring information that reflects just immense amounts of effort throughout the states to look at the quality of their waters, compile them in kind of a standard format, and every 2 years report to Congress on the condition of the waters of the United States. Now, these databases are technical by nature because that's the type of monitoring information that comes into us. And they're good for being able to have scientists go into them and prepare summaries that Congress will understand and sort of translate out once every 2 years what the findings are and what the condition of the waters are. But for the average citizen to actually go in and interact with those databases, something just about never happened. I've been in that office for 22 years. And the anecdote that Sarah just told about actually picking up How's My Waterway now and checking on a place somewhere that was just of interest and getting results of its condition in just a few seconds. I'd never done that until the last year. And now, essentially, I do it almost once a month or so, or planning vacations or planning a possible fishing trip or anything like that. It's just so easy now that someone who never really dug into the database for really localized information is doing it on a regular basis. And I know there are tens of thousands of other people who are now doing the same thing. Well, what has changed then? What used to be and what is it now? Because it's all the same information. What we had was technical language in a database that was very good and very structured, but it started from the national scale and was set up so that you drill down, you might get a state level of information, which could be hundreds or even thousands of different waters. And then you could go to the largest level of watershed or river basin and then drill down farther and farther in that way. And eventually, if you didn't glaze over, you might be at your locality you were interested in the first place. Well, what needed to happen, first of all, was flip that upside down. Go immediately to the locality that you were interested in, if you're a user who just has one very local question. Face it, We're in Washington, D.C. area. A lot of us think nationally, and nobody else in the country does. There's tremendous amounts of thinking that goes on where people really are interested in their local area or the area they're going to be on vacation or something like that. Whole different perspective. So the first thing that had to change was that we had to adopt something that was very easy to get into. We had to adopt a local perspective, and it had to be really fast because people really kind of don't have a lot of time to look up information. The next thing about it was that this same information about the quality of waters across the country really should be offered up in things that people are familiar with. Maps are very effective to a lot of people, but there's also people that don't like maps. So we had a list format in that case, just with very, very limited information. So approaching people in two different types of information gathering. Probably the most important thing of all, that second to bottom bullet there, in plain English. We needed, and this was probably the most time-consuming part of developing How's My Waterway, we needed to virtually write for the first time or rewrite all kinds of scientific language about what a pollutant is, where it comes from, what it can do to the environment, whether or not there's any human health implications, and what you could do as a citizen if you were actually interested in the kinds of things that might make less of this pollutant be around. That was really a bigger task than any of us ever anticipated. And, of course, the bottom bullet there, it all needed to remain true to the scientific information in the database that it was originally based on. So, what we came up with, How's My Waterway, essentially created an alternate pathway into the exact same information that we've had in these databases for the past many years. What you're seeing up here, by the way, is that it reflects the fact that we have not only a website and a mobile-friendly website, which really you can pull up on your tablet or your smartphone, or a kiosk version, which we're working with in a selected group of museums that includes several from NOAA's Coastal America and the Smithsonian. And those formats are slightly different, but it's all the same information. What you're seeing here is combined just for efficiency on a single slide. You're seeing the map and the list together. The first thing you see when you go into the site is a 10 by 10 mile search area for what you've selected, whether you put in, where you are standing now and your smartphone said, here's the 10 by 10 box around your area, or if you asked about a particular place, like a zip code or a place name, then you'll get the map, you'll get a list over on the right, and you'll see the very basics of what the list shows you are just limited to, kind of a red, green, or blue, polluted, healthy, or unassessed, and we don't know. So that's the very first bit of information. If you can find the waterway you were interested in that case, you can dig a little deeper. And in that case, you get a little more waterway-specific details. You choose one of those waterways, and you'll find out, okay, what is it polluted for? What's being done about this? What are the types of cleanup plans might have been written or implemented? What can you do about that in terms of getting involved? Or is there something you have observed and you want to contact your authorities about? Or also in this area, types of things like what's the relevance to drinking water supplies? What kinds of, there's efforts across the nation about fish habitat partnerships involving a lot of people. Or maybe you just want to find out more about, since you saw down the list that there's these certain pollutants for that waterway, maybe you want to find out about what that really means. And then the insert that you see there, there's just part of one of the plain English explanations that just run about a paragraph in length. And all of those really emphasize simple format, use of plain English, and really instant access while still pulling from that same database. So that's about the nutshell version of what we have there. And I think I'll stop at that point to leave plenty of time and have more questions later.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. All right. So my name is, again, John DeSoto. I'm with Creative Information Technology, and we were the recipient of the Incubator Award, so we were very honored to have received that award. Our application is a little bit different in that it is not a government app. We developed this more for the commercial space. So we see this big broad headline here, reduce hospital readmissions, and we have Patient Buddy. Really, what is this? Well, what we're really talking about here is that in the United States, 1 in 6 Medicare patients are currently going back into the hospital for avoidable readmissions. And ultimately, this is costing us, the United States, the taxpayers, about $17.5 billion a year. And obviously, this is a huge problem that we're facing, and it speaks to the quality of the care that we have here in the United States. So we have the Affordable Care Act that was instituted, and that finally has given CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, some teeth to be able to do something about that. They've been able to implement a program where they are now penalizing hospitals that have high readmission rates. And that began back in 2012, and it is going to be continuing on and ultimately increasing with each year a 1% penalty. The penalty is not for that one particular patient that has gone back into the hospital, but their entire Medicaid population that they serve. And for most hospitals, that's a large percentage of the people that they see. So that becomes a huge financial incentive for them to improve their quality of care. Things such as care coordination, such as transitions of care, those are all the kinds of things that we need to re-engineer and rethink about in order to be able to help patients go beyond a 30-day period of time without having to go back into the hospital again. So our application is dealing specifically with that. When we're addressing readmissions, again, Sarah had asked us to talk about technology and innovation. Well, again, we're excited because obviously there was the recognition of the problem. And not only the federal agencies, AHRQ, for instance, was leading a big effort with their Project Red to be able to recognize that this is a significant area that we have to focus on. We can only look at the cost that it's impacting us in our healthcare system and our spending for healthcare to realize that, again, this is out of control. And so recognition was relatively easy. But our organization has to also recognize that this is something that we could do something about. And so Creative Information Technology, fortunately, has a wonderful innovation incubator area within our organization where we're allowed to submit ideas for new innovations, and then those be reviewed by senior management and selected for efforts for us to be able to go and do something about. We approach the development of this application as an in-house development. So, again, that is also a challenge in and of itself to be able to get the resources and your own R&D money to be able to develop a program that will be scalable for a national level, and then all that be done with in-house resources. But again, we were fortunate in that we have the support of senior management, and they were willing to be able to bank on this and help us with investment dollars to make this happen. The technology and the skill sets that we had in-house, from application development to our staff that works with data analytics and communications, and then also to stay on the cutting edge by having folks to work on gamification elements, were all things that allowed us to move this application forward. What resulted was a very user-friendly application that is launched on 2 different formats. One in which the patient utilizes, which is a smart-enabled technology, either a smartphone or a tablet, or they can utilize even a web portal if they wish, and be able to interface with the application. And with that, be able to control information such as their own profile, the ability to be able to stay in touch with hospital staff, such as case managers, be able to look at their medication and be able to see what medications, not only are they being prescribed, but how to take it, and be able to track that medication as well, and also receive reminders that it's time to take that medication. Another area that it's important is the ability to be able to report when they have a medical error that they feel has occurred. Again, this coming year, we're going to be tracking issues such as knee replacements. And again, we've all heard the horror stories about people that have suffered from having gauze left in their incision areas or so forth. Well, again, this provides an opportunity for people to report those kinds of things and get that information back out to the government and then ultimately the public. And then there are also areas for the patient to be able to reach their doctor, schedule that next appointment, which is very important, and then also be able to review their discharge information at just the touch of a button. And that's something that we found has been very important. Normally, when you are released from the hospital, number one, you're released after just 2 or 3 days now. So you're probably still feeling pretty sick. But yet you're given a stack of papers, and in those papers is very important information about your treatment plan and what you're supposed to do for the next 30 days in order to get better. So at the worst possible time, you're being told how to follow all these instructions, and you really probably are not listening very well. And then when you get the stack of papers, they ultimately go in our filing cabinet at home on the kitchen table, and then they stay there like all the rest of our things. So the discharge information, again, provides an avenue for you to be able to see that in a very easy format. It's bulleted. You can scroll through it at any time and then be able to review that with your case manager as well. So again, it's also very empowering for the patient. The technology for today is really what has empowered this application to come to light. The fact that we now have our fast smartphone devices that can keep our patients in touch with their case managers has really helped this to be something that has come to life. The fact that we now have the ability to be able to pull information that was embedded within layers and layers of hospital systems and download that information securely onto a smart device and then have the patient be able to receive that on their handheld is also very important. And plus, also have the technology now so that if their device is lost or stolen, there is no information on the device. Again, you hear all the time, a laptop is stolen or they lose your smartphone or so forth. We couldn't possibly have an incident where that medical information be available to anyone who finds it. So no device is stored on these applications. It's all pushed out once the patient logs into the system. Again, we also wanted to be able to provide very meaningful feedback to the patient on how they're doing and giving them graphical feedback, giving their reminder notices so that they can continue to track their progress all along the pathway here, as well as a mechanism to continue to motivate them through their recovery period. And again, that's also very important because when we're talking about Medicare populations, we're oftentimes talking about our elderly. And so keeping them motivated is an important part of that recovery process. So from the case manager standpoint, it also empowered a great many things, from the ability to be able to have business analytics let me go back a little bit, business analytics, to be able to have drill downs on all of the information that is available from the patient's point of care, discharge information for the case manager to be able to review with the patient, and then create a dialogue, and then also the opportunity to be able to respond quickly, either in a text format, an email format, or via phone call, so that that patient and case manager are connected in the event that there's a question regarding medications or there's a problem with their recovery plan. So as we look towards technology trends going forward, healthcare and health IT is really moving fast right at this particular time, and it's really a very exciting field to be in at this point. The idea of having more connected devices is certainly top of our radar. Our application is currently undergoing some testing so that we have the integration of Bluetooth devices. When doctors are sending patients home now, they're oftentimes saying, do you have the ability to take your own blood pressure? Well, those blood pressure devices now oftentimes have a Bluetooth component to them, and that information can be picked up via Patient Buddy and transmitted back so that the case manager can also see how well they're doing. Glucometers are another area that, again, provides an opportunity for a Bluetooth connection. A weight scale is also very important. So these kinds of connected devices now will further empower better clinical decision-making on the part of case managers. Additionally, you have improved data sharing. Now, with the advent of all of the data, we can continue to hook in the provider, we can hook in specialists, and then we can also provide this information to other healthcare providers that will eventually see this case. Monitoring and diagnosis will continue to improve. Again, telehealth is becoming a very big part of our healthcare system these days, and so again, this will further empower that, and also the ability to be able to motivate the patient through different means. Gamification is one of the areas that we use in our application. Will also be very important in the future. So as we're looking at Patient Buddy and the two components that we utilize now, we see a great opportunity to be able to empower the patient to have better success in their recovery over a 30-day period of time. But more importantly is that this whole process not only extends to our Medicare patients, but also to us, because these very same hospitals are the same ones that treat us when we're ill. And if we have poor quality for our Medicare patients, it's very likely we're suffering the same poor quality for our private insurers as well. And so it's an avenue for us to be able to improve that along. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Is it good? I think giving me this microphone and letting me have movement might have been a mistake, but I'm going to take advantage of that. Because somebody said we're all family, so I figure I might as well be more comfortable. So I have two young boys, and they have this movie they like to watch called Robots. If anybody has seen Robots, it gets old after you've seen it 100 times. But in Robots, they have a saying that's see a need, fill a need. So I think in government, we follow that same tactic, is see a need, fill a need. So for Border Patrol agents, I just want to take you as quickly as I can this time. She remembers, and I'm good. So in our current process, if you have, as a Border Patrol agent, you bring 25 people, we'll say, back to an office, that means you have 25 people to identify. So in a certain amount of time, you have to get that taken care of, and in front of you, those 25 people are all trying to conceal themselves and their identities. The problem we have right now in the culture of law enforcement is we've stuck with fingerprints since anybody can probably remember. Fingerprints has been the primary modality. Well, the primary modality is fingerprints, and if somebody has an unlimited amount of time and a limited amount of energy to spend to defeat fingerprints, they will find a way. I'm sure you know that the people we deal with have plenty of money, plenty of time, and many more smart people than us to figure this out. So our need was, we want to be able to identify somebody with a stronger identification. I don't want just a fingerprint. I don't want just a face. I want to get an identity that has a strong matcher, such as an iris. So our need was identify someone. So we came up, not just us, but we decided to implement iris. So with our group of developers, which is Dev Technology, which they're sitting right there if anybody wants to look at them. So with Dev Technology, we developed this iris technology. And it just incorporates fingerprints, face, and iris, allows us to send it to the same database as we send to it now, but gives us a stronger identification on a subject. So rather than saying, if a person's worked all their life with, let's say, brick, and they have no fingerprint, and I can't identify them, now I have another modality, iris, to match against. So that's where we came up with the need of, let's do this. So currently, the Border Patrol is taking 10 fingerprints, just like we have. We're taking face, and we're adding these iris files. What helped us was, as the need arose, the FBI's NGI program, Next Generation Identification, saw that other agencies wanted to use this, and they came up with, let's enroll these iris files into the criminal master files. What that benefits me and every other government agency and every other state and local agency is, now we all can send against this database and we can get criminal history on people. So if you're a bad person, I can find out if you're a bad person, rather than I might find out if you're a bad person. So fingerprints, face, and iris is where we are now. What we want to go to is we want to have that same technology spread out throughout the country, and we want to have it mobile as well. As you know, We're not always just sitting at a desk. We're not always just walking out at the border. We're doing train stations, bus stations, whatever you can think of. That's where we're going. We want to be able to do that same technology, that same capability out in the field so we can mobily identify somebody. If I can do it before I get them to a station, I'm better off than I'm sitting in a station and they've been there for 3 or 4 hours. So it was quick, right? That's all I wanted to hit.
Well, I want to thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure to join you and talk a little bit about Business USA. Although I did encounter a little bit of that mass exodus that Ira mentioned as I was leaving D.C. This afternoon and encountered some traffic on the way here. But it's a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank ACT-IAC. We were honored to be part of the inaugural Igniting Innovation event, and we're already gearing up for next year. So as proof that we're innovative and agile, I noticed there were several people that were at the last event. You're probably looking at the screen going, what happened? Well, in the time since Igniting Innovation, we've actually completely relaunched the website. We've got a brand new look and feel and a number of new features and smart tools that we've added. So I would invite those of you, if you haven't visited business.usa.gov yet, please visit and give us your feedback. So what is Business USA? At its core, it's about reimagining the relationship between citizens and the government. In particular, businesses and entrepreneurs and the government. We were chartered by a presidential memorandum, a presidential directive to create Business USA. So we had a little help from the top. That's always useful. If you were at the Igniting Innovation event, you know that I joked that the president was kind enough to give us 90 days to launch the initial website to capture all the resources from across the entire federal government that could be beneficial to businesses and entrepreneurs. So we had a little challenge, but we rose to the occasion, and we successfully launched the initial web portal in 90 days, and I think we have continued to innovate since then. So the reason that it works, some of my logos are a little degraded here. I don't quite know what happened, but one of the birds is flying away. Not a big deal. The reason Business USA is successful is because of the partnership. We have 24 federal agencies and all of their sub-operating units that are part of the initiative. And we now have a program, a product, a service for literally hundreds of federal partners and increasingly state and local partners as well. The nature of the initiative, as the presidential memorandum said, the early focus was on small businesses and any size business that wanted to begin or expand exporting. We've quickly grown into new areas, and our current kind of outreach efforts are focusing around still small businesses and exporters, but in addition to that, veteran entrepreneurs, women and minority-owned businesses, rural enterprises, and we've become more active in the disaster recovery space as well. And we're continuing to add new content, new information, new resources all the time at Business USA. In fact, from the point at which we launched in October of 2011 to today, we've grown from about 250 pieces of content to well over 8,000 pieces of content, and it's growing all the time. So we offer a wide array of resources for businesses. We've organized the site not as you would traditionally see a government website or portal organized around the mission of the organization and the offerings of that organization, but rather around the needs of the customer. So our website is organized based on a specialized business need or the maturity level of the business to help people to really hone in and locate the resources that they're looking for. One of the things that we found through our focus groups and usability testing is that by and large, the business community and the public is provider agnostic. They want the resource. They have this sense that there are resources that are available through the federal government that will be beneficial to them. What they really want to do is figure out how they can most easily discover, access, take advantage of those resources. So that's the focus of our efforts. And Business USA was designed to be that single access point across the entire federal government. So no matter where you went, you could come to Business USA and you could find your way to other channels and access additional resources. So in addition, though, and while I focus a lot on the web portal because it is our primary mechanism to access Business USA, we're a multi-channel initiative. You no longer have to know the exact resource that you're looking for or the agency that you want to contact. You can come to Business USA and we can seamlessly direct you to that resource. And a lot of our users do come to us through the web portal, but we've kept open a contact center channel for those that prefer to actually pick up the phone and talk to a human being. Of course, we're using email. We're piloting chat to see if that's something that is of demand that we might want to expand to provide that as a way that people can access resources. And we're increasingly using social media, not so much to push out information or as a communication channel, but really more as a customer service channel so that people can contact us and that we can access their inquiries. So what you see on this diagram, we've captured several of these channels. We really aspire to provide a very wholesome and fulsome multi-channel experience so that no matter what your preferred way of communicating with the government, Business USA can meet that need. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the innovations that we have put in place to date, and then Sarah said, I think this group would be very interested in knowing what else might be coming down the pike as well. So one of the things that we've done so far to make it easier, and I'll freely admit the first generation of the Business USA web platform was largely a link farm. It was an advanced directory that organized content for the user. And we took you off to additional resources that could be beneficial. In the second generation of the resource, of the portal that many of you saw during the Igniting Innovation event, we had a series of tiles based on business need or maturity of the business. And underneath those tiles, we created wizards. Now, this often generates questions, and I'll never forget the first moment that we were having a kitchen table conversation around my house, and it came up that we were creating wizards, and my young son looked up at me and said, "You have a wizard?" Like, having nothing to do with Harry Potter or Merlin or anything else, but it's really a smart tool to more easily guide the user to the resource that they're trying to access. So we've taken these thousands of pieces of content and resources that are present on Business USA, and we have worked with subject matter experts from across the government to understand the most common inquiries and questions that they receive regarding their programs and resources. And we've essentially designed some decision trees so that based on the answer that you give to the first question, you'll get another question and maybe a third or fourth question. And we've really tried to limit this so that you're not answering 50 questions, but you're answering maybe 5 to 10 questions that are going to narrow that result set down from 8,000 to hopefully the 10 or 15 resources that are going to be most beneficial to you, that are going to be most helpful to you so that you can really focus in on what you're trying to access. So that's been a really successful tool. We know from the user analytics on the site that people are actually using them as designed, and they seem to be, coming to the end of the tool and then going off to access the various resource programs from across our federal partner network. Another thing that we've done, and I noticed a couple people mentioned mobile, and actually I noticed a lot of common themes across the presentations here today, but we've used responsive design so that no matter what platform you come to us on, if you're on your home computer, if you're on your laptop, if you're on your tablet or your mobile device, you can access all the same resources through Business USA. And we did this for a couple of reasons. One, we're a new initiative, we're a startup, we're resource constrained. It allowed us to develop one platform. We didn't have to develop a separate mobile platform at extra cost. It's scalable, it's flexible, it provides all the bells and whistles that our customers are looking for at this time. Another innovation that I think we're piloting is, and a lot of these innovations, frankly, honestly we've adopted from the private sector, and we're applying them to the public sector for the first time. So we have something that I like to refer to as our Amazon.com-like feature, which is based on the program or resource that you select. Let's say you're looking for a loan guarantee program, and you discover that XM Bank has a wonderful loan guarantee program that you might be interested in. Well, if you go through our wizard and you find your loan guarantee program and you're looking at the program abstract, and by the way, we've also tried to use plain language and distill it down so it's easily accessible to the customer. So much of the content that we get from across the government is in governmentese or jargon, or so we've really tried to simplify it to 2 or 3 paragraphs that make it very accessible to the customer. So you read your abstract and you go off to the program, and what we offer up on the website is just like if you were on Amazon.com and you said, I'm interested in buying a stereo receiver, it would say, well, people that bought stereo receivers were also interested in speaker wires and speakers. We offer you up complementary programs and services from across the federal government. So if you're interested in XM Bank's loan guarantee program, you might be interested in USDA's loan guarantee program. Or you might be also want to know more about tax incentives from the IRS. So based on, and it's a smart tool, so based on the use of the website, it gets smarter and smarter over time. And we're able to refer people to those resources. So those are innovations that we have in place today. So what's coming in the future? Well, I mentioned mobile, and I mentioned that we had used that as a cost-saving measure. What we're seeing is a huge spike in mobile usage. I mean, in the lifespan of the initiative, granted only 2 years old, we've seen a massive number of our users migrate to mobile platform, and it's increasing all the time. So we're giving really serious consideration to whether or not we may want to explore a mobile platform that we could add some additional accoutrements and bells and whistles to beyond some of the functionality of the website, since it is such a high demand channel. What else is coming? Personalization. I think for us, we really do see a need to be able to provide a more personalized experience for our customers that, again, is probably similar to what you would experience if you go to private sector websites. If you go to Netflix or Amazon, you register at the website and they remember you. Well, we'd like our users to be able to come back to Business USA and save their searches from past occasions, or maybe voluntarily choose to share information with us about what they're interested in. If they're only interested in, intellectual property protection, they don't need to get information from me about small business loans. We'd really like to tailor their experience and customize it, both on the platform itself, but also in the information that we share with them in the future. So we've been working very closely with a team of Presidential Innovation Fellows on an initiative called My USA that will be the bridging off point for greater personalization, not just on Business USA, but I think across the entire federal government. Will be a very specialized business use case of that application. So we're looking forward to rolling that out in the future as well. So with that, I would just conclude by really encouraging you all to please visit the website. We have a button on the homepage. You can give us feedback. This entire redesign was based on focus groups, usability, and feedback from our customers. We're highly, highly dependent on what you want to see from Business USA. We'd also invite you to join our community. Please sign up for our newsletter and be part of the initiative. Thanks very much.
Kick this off by saying you can imagine how thrilled we were when all was said and done and we had this wonderful cross-section of innovations that came forward, not just in the nomination process, but in the process that our social networking selected during the course of the day. It was really critical that people got around and met with and talked to as many of the 30 as possible. So when the voting happened, it was representative of the knowledge that you all had picked up. And so many people came up to me that day and talked about new information that they had gotten, new relationships that they were able to form, business cards that they had been able to gather for future projects that they were thinking of within their corporations or agencies. And it was really very exciting, because that is one of the things that the Institute for Innovation wants to do, is put innovators together and support those in both government and industry who are doing innovation. So on that note, let me turn this over for questions from you all, and if you don't have some, I do. So Go ahead.
Yeah, Paul Good. Have other federal agencies taken a hard look at your innovation? It looks fairly impressive. And I'm vested in this. I'm with the Department of Interior. We have about 7,000 law enforcement officers.
CBP as a whole has 3 operational components: Border Patrol, and then one of the major components is OFO, which is the people at that let you into the country or facilitate trade and travel. So OFO themselves have been looking at this exact same technology for an entry-exit pilot. Within this NGI pilot that's happening now, we have Bureau of Prisons and some other groups that have been working with NGI to get into a similar pilot. I think everybody understands that there's a need within DHS and as well as outside of DHS, so we've definitely been working on it. I guess I don't want to take too much time, but what we've built here is scalable for anybody within the DHS architecture. So anybody right now can take my system that we've built, turn it on at their station, put a camera up, and it'll work for them, and they can send the transactions the same way we do. So we've tried to keep that whole of government approach.
Park police access to the law during the inaugural.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Other questions? Jan?
So all of you talked about the ability to start with a new idea, and then all of you talked about how you're making it stick. Right? And a lot of us work with agencies and are part of agency-driven companies where we come up with ideas, but you've been successful in bringing them forward in different ways, in carrying them forward and making them last. What are some challenges that you had to overcome that you can share with us so that we can try to replicate the success in our work with government?
Would like to.
I'll kick that off. There were a couple of things that we were up against in the beginnings of the How's My Waterway idea. And one of them was just an internal sense of, explain this all in plain English. We can't do that. We're not good at that. It was almost a self-censoring thing, which, well, if you aren't good at it, you better find a way to be, was my reaction. And our team was very willing to rise to the occasion on that. And that's one of the reasons why we prevailed, because we just didn't want to take no for an answer on being able to explain things clearly. I just thought it was no excuse. None of us thought there was any excuse for that. The second was that we were really in the very earliest days of going platform independent as an agency. We had to actually design use the responsive design approach before our agency standard was available for that. So as such, we ran into some obstacles saying, you can't do this yet because we don't have a standard yet. And we overcame that because our head of the Office of Water was very interested in this project. So that always helps too.
I think my favorite response to "you can't do that" is always, well, why not? Why can't you do that? I think it's a really important question that we always challenge ourselves and keep asking that. My response would be, we were very fortunate to have had a presidential launch and a presidential mandate to kick off Business USA. That said, the president's very busy, and I don't think we can really count on sustained presidential attention over the long term. So it was really important that we create a partnership, a really strong interagency collaboration. And I can't say enough about the importance of having internal champions across those partners to keep promoting the initiative and to keep it front of mind and to keep clearing away roadblocks to help us to be successful. So far, that's made a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Paul?
I would agree with Dennis on the synergies, you could say. Right now, if one group comes with a need, it's sometimes difficult to get something paid for, to get something done. If you get a group of people together and we all are champion that same need, it pushes it out and you seem to fill it easier. With Iris specifically, that's our problem. How many people needed the Iris functionality? Well, it started with just a few, and then as you started to talk to people, even at conferences and meetings, you meet people, they have the same need, you start to build that relationship, and then as you go, the more people that ask for it, the harder you swing.
I would say that in our area, we had a number of challenges that we had to overcome because we were not developing this product for a client, and this was all on our dollar. with every iteration, we had to prove that we were able to go to the next step. So our proof of concept almost was challenged multiple times as we were going through the process. And so we would, develop our initial concept, and we would do wireframes, and we would show this to different organizations and engage their reaction. And again, based on that reaction, we decided, okay, this is positive. Let's invest a little more, and we'll go to the next step. So then we actually developed a working model and went out and tested that again. And so, again, waited for the feedback. That was positive. So we invested a little bit more and went further on. But because, again, you're talking about internal dollars, the budgets were kept very tight. So at any point, we could have, pulled the plug on the project and said, okay, well, let's begin down a different pathway. So there were multiple challenges, and each one of those was to ensure that we were meeting with clinicians and meeting with appropriate stakeholders and demonstrating what this project was about and what it could do, and gauging their feedback. And so, and then finally we were able to be able to overcome all of those hurdles and say, we have an actual working program now that we're ready to launch and introduce. And that's pretty much where we're at this point. So.
Other questions? Okay. Well, let me ask one. I think a lot of times it's really the power of a champion internally who can really drive whether something takes off and develops and, as Dan says, sticks. I know you had a president, but there's undoubtedly pretty important people who were, Dennis, below the president, who also wanted to help make it successful or help you overcome the, well, why nots. Can the four of you kind of comment on the importance of your internal cultures and having a champion as you developed your projects?
Yeah. I could start. I think, I could add to what I said before. I was saying it's also, I think, very important, particularly with a project like ours, that you have multidisciplinary champions. So, for Business USA, it wasn't just a technology project. It was also about customer service. It was about content. Certainly there was a very heavy technology component as well. And it was important that we had champions in all of those different areas that could help us out. It was important that we had senior level officials that had bought into the vision and were willing to promote it, but also it was really important that mid-level managers and junior staff also embraced it, because they were all critically important to our success. Everyone played a role, from the program expert who just labored day in and day out to help us to understand their programs and distill it down into something that could be easily accessible and discoverable, right up really to the secretaries of some of our departments who would go out and promote the initiative.
I think the culture of law enforcement, and I can speak on that because I'm one of them, so I can pick on myself, is we are always about going out and getting, we'll just call him the bad guy, getting the job done. But at the same time, we're missing the bigger picture of tracking the bad guy, identifying the bad guy, understanding who they are, and trying to stop the actual flow of those bad people. So as we work through our issues and we realize we need to identify these people, we still have the problem for Border Patrol, I can speak Border Patrol specifically, of having the end user buy into what we're creating. So I can create whatever I want to create, and I can send it out to the field, but if they don't want to use it, they're not going to use it, and it's going to fail. So our major issue with us is not just getting upper management or executive levels behind us, but is also getting our end users behind us. So a product that can be easy to use is simple enough to where, I don't want to dumb it down, but simple enough to just push a couple buttons, then I'll have a better user base, and that for me is changing that culture to say, look, we've got the bad person now. Let's finish the rest of this path.
Mm-hmm. I guess in our situation with Patient Buddy, I was ultimately wearing multiple hats as the creator, and ultimately the designer and the champion for the product at each level. And so it was really a series of ongoing meetings and efforts to really gain more support from not only our development staff, who had to understand the concept and then be excited about it, and then our senior staff, who had to understand it and then get excited about it, and then ultimately the CEO, who we had to do the same thing. But as I mentioned, at each level there was the challenge. Are we able to move on to that next point? So as champion, it was my responsibility to demonstrate here are the positives. This is what we're looking for ultimately in terms of our return by going to that next level, and this is the opportunity that we see before us. So, definitely very challenging to do that when you're wearing all the same hats.
I earlier mentioned that our head of the Office of Water was a very enthusiastic champion of the idea from early on. That most certainly helps, and in addition, we even her enthusiasm was shared through a lot of high levels with EPA. Our former administrator Lisa Jackson tweeted about it during its initial rollout, and that certainly helps get the word around, helps keep things going. But I think the more informative way to look at it is maybe why would there be this level of support at high levels like that? I think in our case it was really about that. They understand, well, certainly there's a demand for transparency in government that is almost unprecedented right now, and it's almost unprecedented our ability to deliver on transparency. And this was something that was really seen not only as delivering on information, but taking even a step further, making that information more understandable. So it was less likely that people were going to ask, well, why are you doing this? Why are you having things like rules against pollution and such? It just becomes kind of a self-explanatory situation when things are not only transparent, but easy to understand.
Great. I'm going to cut us off now, but I want to remind everyone that we will be doing Igniting Innovation again next February. There'll be a call for nominations in the October. We're going to probably start the call for nominations before ELC, and then we'll remind you at ELC and give you one more week, and then that will be it. There won't be extensions. And so that we can get the judging process done before the holidays this year. So we're looking forward to that. And I do want to say that at Management of Change, the conversation will be with other members of the Igniting Innovation finalists. So you won't just be hearing the same thing. So don't think you're just coming again and hearing the same. And we're really going to be focusing there about the process of innovation, what really makes it work. And we'll get into some other subjects like acquisition and other kinds of challenges that are funding, et cetera, that make innovation work in government. So please do come to Management of Change and hear more about innovation in government. Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. Congratulations. Okay.